who's got it all together, and I wonder, you know, who's paying for this and who's paying for that, and how she got to where she is. She probably has this like rich guy that did it all for her, and like I made up all these stories in my head because I was envious of what she had and where she was. Beautiful kids, successful business, respected in the community, gives back. She had everything that I wanted. And that was so early in my personal development that I went to a place of judgment. And I'm really embarrassed and ashamed to say that, but if I don't get real with you, how can you know, get real with me? And as I got to know this extraordinary woman with a heart the size of the planet, who sacrifices so much, gives so much, came from nothing, and just gives and gives and gives and gives. And you know the cool thing about it is the more that you give, the more you get. So I want you to put your hands together and really give a warm welcome for Mitra, please.
I'm excited to hear you, girl.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
First of all, thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time to be here this evening. I understand we all have personal obligations, and when you are invited to something like this and you're not really sure of what it is, you know, there's a little bit of apprehension, but you know what? Give yourselves a nice round of applause for making it here today. I'll give myself one. Because I was a little apprehensive, but it's an honor to be here. I love the energy, and it really truly is an honor to be here in front of all of you and have the opportunity to share my story. And I'm going to be as real with you as I possibly can, because I don't know any other way. It's probably one of the things that saved my butt throughout my whole entire life. I have the spirit of a child, so I've been told. So I have managed to make it through all the challenges that life has thrown at me with that heart and spirit of a child. Little Mitra, as I like to call her, because God knows she's gone through hell. So a little bit about me. Mitra Castano, aka Mitra Newman. There's a story behind that one. Mitra Haddad was the name that I was born with. I was born in Iran with two brothers. So needless to say, I learned to be a fighter at a very young age. You know, especially living in a country that's mainly dominated by men. So I didn't have a voice. And but there's always this essence inside of me, this longing to matter. Even though I was a little girl, I was very defiant. So defiant that, and you know, I don't mind sharing this with you because I feel safe, but I was sexually molested by my father for quite a few years. And it was my brother that saved me. He's now my best friend. We shared the same birthday, and I used to hate him because, you know, I didn't want to share my birthday with him, but needless to say, since that incident, I look forward to us spending our birthdays together. But I wasn't just sexually molested by my dad. I was also sexually molested by my mother's best friend's husband, but I couldn't speak up. I did attempt to tell my mother what her best friend's husband had done to me, but I got the beating of my life because how dare I? You know, I couldn't speak up. But again, there was this longing inside me to want to stand up for myself, despite of the way I was brought up. I was brought up being told I'm stupid, I'm nothing but a whore, but I understand where that came from because I allowed my father to get away with abusing me for as long as he did. So I grew up thinking that I was everything he said I was. But again, going back to this little Mitra inside of me that was born as a fighter, I really truly believe that we are all born as warriors. We all have this warrior-like spirit, but it's through unfortunate circumstances in our life, through the circle of influence, through our families, you know, our husbands, boyfriends, whatever connections we have in our lives, we lose that warrior-like spirit. We give in to our circumstances, we forget who we are. And you know, it's only when you stay true to yourself, and it can be very challenging at times, believe me, I know. It's only when you stay true to yourself that you're able to serve your purpose, whatever that purpose may be. For me, it was to maintain having that voice. I longed for it, I fought for it. So much so that when we migrated to Canada, we actually took off overnight. My father said we're going on a vacation, the 5 of us, packed one suitcase. This is when we're still living in Iran. And I was told we were going on a vacation, so I never had the opportunity to say goodbye to my best friend, Nadia. I've never forgotten her. My grandmother and my family, we took off. I've never been back since. We went to Thailand, lived there as immigrants for 4 years, and came to Canada. So needless to say, when we came here as new immigrants, my father refused to admit that he was Iranian. So he would lie and say that we're Greek or Arabian or whatever, but he wouldn't admit to the fact that we're Persians. And I know why. It's because of the American hostages in Iran at the time, and he was embarrassed. So when we came to Canada, he embraced, we were Christians in Iran, but he embraced the religion that much more because he wanted to be different than what we were in Iran. So hence the last name Newman. We became newborn Christians, and he picked the last name Newman and decided on his own to change all of our names to westernized, biblical names for that matter. So he changed his name from Safar to David, my mother from Nazi to Mary, Ramin to Raymond, Tomas to Thomas, and he wanted to call me Sarah. So this is when I realized how strong my desire to stand up for what I believed in, even as a 12-year-old little girl was. I went on a hunger strike, got the beating of my life because I refused to give up my name. It's the only thing I had. So I was the oddball in the family, and he said to me, oh, you're gonna, he was already talking down to me every chance he had because my father had this inclination that because I'm a girl, that I didn't matter because that's the way he was raised. And my mother, we witnessed my mother be beat up day after. We were raised with it. And when we tried to go to her aid, it was a pretty ugly scene. But needless to say, I fought. I kept my name. And whenever we'd be in social gatherings, he would shun, he would look down on me. And yeah, this is my wife, Mary. This is my son, Raymond, and Thomas, and Mitra. I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. And people would say, oh, I love your name. And I'd say, thanks, I love it too. I had the beating of my life to keep it. And people would laugh, but they didn't think I was serious. So needless to say, that was the beginning of me taking my power back. It started with keeping my name. So needless to say, I have had, growing up, nothing but negative influence from my father, from my brothers, from all the other male figures I've had in my life. And I have no problems telling you that I've been married twice. First time, I was only married for a year. I got into head-on collision, and my ex left me, only to come back a year later when I was no longer broken, because I was his little trophy wife, to come back and, oh, by the way, these are not real, they're bought, just in case you're wondering. Remember, no judgment. So,
Love it. Woo.
I'm back. So I was married to a bodybuilder, and my marriage only lasted a year because I got into head-on collision and I could no longer train and no longer was presentable in his eyes. He left me. I recovered because I'm a warrior, and I started working towards my recovery, and he decides he wants me back. No word of a lie. He comes knocking on my door, takes a look at me up and down, and after he'd done half of Maple Ridge, by the way, that he decided he wanted me back. And I said to him, yeah, he's a piece of work. But we're not male bashing, we're just sharing my story. Male bashing will be after this meeting. Honestly, I have no issues with men. In fact, after all of my experiences, and just so you know, I've since forgiven my father. I now have a healthy relationship with him. With boundaries, thank you. Thank you. I wrote him a forgiveness letter first and flushed it in the toilet. That was my first step towards healing because I didn't have the strength to face him, because it would be like facing that monster that I can't say hated. Hate wasn't a mild enough word. I loathed my father. And he represented, every other man out there represented my father. And I really truly believe that I was nothing but, for lack of a better word, a whore. So I lived most of my life believing that I was this useless, worthless piece of you-know-what. But you know, despite of the way he treated me, the way he talked to me, again, that little Mitra inside is what kept me going. And I thought, I'm more than this. I am more than what my father says I am. I'm more than my first husband thought I was. You know, I'm not just a piece of meat. I'm not just somebody to carry on as a trophy wife and you toss me aside like a toy. Like I was broken, he could no longer play with me, so he tosses me aside, and now when I'm fixed and together again, he wants me back. So to finish that story, I looked at him across the room because I was sitting in a chair and I could not move. I was still quite injured, and I said to him, "You're lucky I can't get up and kick your ass." I did. Get out, and I'll see you in court. So that marriage ended fast. And then, you know, a year later, I met my husband of 15 years. And this is a story that I'm really anxious to share with you because, you know, I felt like I had found the love of my life. He saved me. I saw him as my savior. He represented everything my father was not. So needless to say, I clung on to him. He was my life. He gave me 2 beautiful children. By the way, this is my daughter, Michaela. She's the light of my life. And it really truly is, it's an honor for her to be here. And I'll get into other events that Michaela and I do together, but it's really nice to have you here, Peanut. Yeah, you can call her Peanut, she'll hate you for it. So, my now ex-husband, second ex-husband, and no, I don't think I'll ever do it again, but then again, you've heard so many women say that, and yeah, I'll share the gentleman that I'm with now and how much he's impacted my life. He has been a wonderful attribute to what I have built for myself on my own without having a man tell me that he has made me, which is what my ex-husband did for 15 years. And I need to share this with you because for those of you that are married, and I understand that you love your husbands as you should, but please don't ever give up your identity. Don't ever become Mrs. So-and-so. I loved him and trusted him so much that I gave up all that I was. I was Mrs. Castano. I didn't even know what a credit card statement looked like. I was a kept wife. He pulled a Ponzi scheme. $6.2 million. I came home, I have it tattooed on my wrist, September 6, 2009. I came home and my ex told me that we were bankrupt and that we'd lost everything. And I could have handled that. It's only money. I could have handled that. But when he said to me that my life was threatened and that my children's lives were threatened as a mama bear, you know, somebody that had been taking care of for 15 years, I sensed a whole other side of me come up that I was unaware of. Hence, that survival, that warrior-like instinct that I told you about, we all possess it, and you'd be amazed as to how quickly it comes out. So I rolled my sleeves up. He's looking for a criminal lawyer, and I'm looking for shelter for my children because I was afraid of people knocking on my door and doing terrible things to us, as they promised, rightfully so, because they're out hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was left with 2 teenagers, lost our house, lost everything. I only had one thing remaining, and that was my now martial arts school, which is the love of my life. It really truly is, because through my school, I'm able to project that voice that I've so longed for. I'm able to make a change and to contribute to the women in my community. I now am a self-defense instructor, the only female instructor in all of Canada that teaches the kind of self-defense that I teach. And I am so honored to be in the presence of as many women as I have been throughout my career. I've been in this business for 7 years. And I can honestly say it's truly changed my life because I'm in the position to change other people's lives, mainly women. What drives me is the fact that when I was in a place where I had no voice, I wish that I had somebody like me. I wish that I had somebody like Mika come up to me and say, it's gonna be okay. I didn't, so I had to find that voice and I had to find my own strength and I had to take my own power back. So needless to say, I've since then made peace with my ex-husband. I really truly believe in letting go. When you hang on, when you become the product of what's happened to your life, you lose a sense of who you are completely. You become the event that's happened to you without even realizing it. You become a victim. I have refused